Sweet. Yeah, I love this. Got a lot of people showing up.
Awesome, awesome. Well, welcome everybody. This is Joe Papa here with Matt Kirk.
Everybody.
So yeah, we're super stoked. Matt and I were just talking offline before we invited everybody in, and we're really excited to talk about the topic today, which is freelancing.
Yeah. It's a big topic.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think maybe before we get started, I'll do kind of quick, brief intro on Matt and myself. And Matt could probably talk about me if he wants to. But yeah, so Matt's an O'Reilly author. He's written 2 books on machine learning through O'Reilly, and is just totally crushing it in his own business, doing machine learning and data science. So I know, Matt, you've been doing freelancing in a sense for many years now, and have a lot of tips and a lot of things to share with the group today.
Yeah, it's been like now I'm trying to think. I think it's been 11 years. I've done freelancing off and on, not 100% of the time, but and yeah, to introduce you, Joe, Joe has a ton of experience. I'm impressed with the depth of experience, whether it's Booz Allen Hamilton for what was it, 13 years you were there? I mean, it was a stretch, man. And then you owned a franchise, tanning salon, and then on top of that, I know you're running a lot of your own stuff these days, and kind of doing the hustle. So I feel like between the two of us, it's always an interesting mix. So I'm always excited to chat. So yeah, I'm curious where you want to start this, Joe. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's I think it's good to start just kind of why are we talking about freelancing in the first place? I know from my own personal experience, as a Sharpest Mind mentor, working with probably 20 or 30 mentees over the past couple of years, is a lot of times people getting started in this industry, run into the problem of where they just, they've taken boot camps, they've taken online courses, they've done all the self-study, but that really isn't going to cut it to get a job, right? You really need to really build experience, real experience. I'm not talking about, these little side academic projects or, Kaggle things. You really got to do work, over an extended period of time. And, employers in many cases are looking for you to do paid work. This is work that you're going to get paid for. So it's kind of like this catch-22 chicken before the egg thing, right? It's like, well, how do you get work if you don't have any experience doing work, and vice versa? So, that enter freelancing into the picture as an option. And I've seen quite a few of my mentees that, some of them don't even have college degrees. They've done some freelancing work and just worked on a couple of projects and did some client work. And that was enough to really get the attention and put enough experience on the resume to get them in a good job. So your thoughts, Matt?
Yeah, one other thing I'd say before my thought is that, Joe and I like to make this pretty collaborative. So if any of you have questions, just pop them into the group chat, or if you really want to get ask us questions, you can always just share, turn on your camera and ask us directly. I think we've got a couple of ideas that we're going to share, but at the same time, this is a collaborative thing. This is Joe and I, we've been doing this for way too many years, and honestly, this is our service to the community. And to answer, here's the thing, I think a lot of people look at me and they look at all the crap that's on my wall, and they're like, oh my gosh, this guy's intense. He's got his 2 books and his patent and his degree, and he's got another degree, sorry, over here. Here's the thing, 11 years ago, I didn't have any of this really. And as a matter of fact, the first job that I had out of college, I was working as a quantitative analyst for a financial firm, and it was in the middle of the big like recession, the Great Recession, whatever anybody called it back then, and I quickly found myself laid off with a mortgage. It was really tough, and the thing that got me out of it was freelancing, like legitimately. So I spent quite a few months without any employment, and honestly, like finance just didn't make sense in 2009. Like there just wasn't a lot of jobs, and somebody asked me like, "Hey, can you help me set up this PHP site?" You know, and it's like, well, sure, I did, and it really helped bridge the gap for me because like it's one of these things of like, you know, what Joe you just said. I mean, is chicken before the egg. Like experience is so important. And the thing that I found is that sometimes you can just go out and find experience really pretty easily. You can create your own experience. And freelancing is great because honestly, you think of it this way, like an employer spending, you know, say $10,000 on a contractor is very different than spending $180,000 on a full-time employee. And that's why freelancing is so beneficial to growing somebody's career because there's just less risk for the employer and for just everybody. And this is one other thought before, you know, delving into this even more is there's a guy out of Arkansas, I can't remember his name, but his big thing is like to become a better leader, you just volunteer. Like you can get like jobs and leadership opportunities just by doing things for cheaper. And it's a really good way to grow a career and grow yourself. So I'm a huge fan of freelancing. Really,
Awesome.
really am.
Yeah, I'll definitely second what you just said, Matt, is, you know, it's like opportunities tend to lead to more opportunities, right? It's
Yeah.
like when something comes along, you know, when you think it through, in my opinion, my experience is it's better to say yes to things. You know, as long as you don't take on too much, hey, take some risks, take some opportunities, even if it's not, you know, total gain in the short term,
Nope.
but that could lead to other opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah,
Definitely.
it really does, and it all builds on itself, and that's really all we're trying to do with our careers. I feel like that's all I'm trying to do is just build on it, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. So yeah, so you know, I think that's one area where I think freelancing can help is that if you're, you know, kind of getting started in the field of data science or AI or machine learning, and you know, you're looking to take that extra step beyond just learning in a learning environment, is to really now apply what you've learned and build some experience. But I've also seen it beneficial in other cases as well. Namely, like one could be maybe you're working in a field right now, could be data science, could be something totally different, could be software engineering, could be something else, finance, whatever that might be. And, you know, you want to, you know, kind of grow yourself. And even if you're
yeah,
working in a data science field, I've seen a lot of people kind of work more on the analytics side and they want to move towards the machine learning side, the predictive modeling side. So, you know, if you're not doing that in your job on the day to day, is, you know, freelancing can help you kind of get a side gig where you can build your machine learning experience in
yep,
this case, and it'll, you know, certainly help you make a transition.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, I think those are a couple cases where, you know, where freelancing could be beneficial. One thing, another thing that freelancing has really helped me in my career is just to make some extra money,
yeah,
right? So like maybe you're doing this in your job day to day, and you already have experience in your job with data science, machine learning, but hey, you just want to make some extra money.
yeah.
Like, you know, my wife and our wedding anniversary is coming up on the 28th of this month. And when we were getting married, I actually took like a couple freelance side side job gigs just to like make some enhancements to the wedding. You know, it was like, oh, we could get a better DJ, or we could get a better photo package or something if I did this job for folks. So that could be another thing that you do. So there's many ways I think where freelancing can help you in your career, in your goals. And like Matt said before, I think, we really want to hear from you all that are on the call. So take some time, write in the chat, like, why are you watching this video? Like, why, how can freelancing benefit you? Is it to build experience? Is it to build some new experience? Or do you want to just make some side money, or maybe something else? Maybe there's another reason.
Yeah, I'm laughing, Joe, because today is my wedding anniversary.
Is it really? Oh, happy anniversary.
So I've been married for 9 years, and I started my LLC in 2011, and it was very much a way to pay for the crazy wedding that my wife wanted to have. But I mean, and that's the thing, right? I mean, it's such a, I think it's so freeing. It's funny because freelancing has the term free in it, but it really is, because it's like, if you have a goal that you want in life, like you want a nicer car, or you want a better wedding, or there's something that's really important. Freelancing can tie the dots, very well. And I feel like the other side effect is also that, for me, like, I've just learned how to sell better, and it doesn't matter, like, selling, I think we all think of it as, it's like, well, I'm selling for money, right? It's like, yeah, that's true. But then think about, like, your position, and we're always selling what we're doing, because, and especially with data science is so hard to sell sometimes. I mean, it's like explaining to somebody what a supervised learning model is, to somebody who's a CEO. It's really important to learn that. And with freelancing, it almost makes it difficult in a way, because you have to overcome that very quickly. So the communication and the selling ability just gets better, and practice makes perfect. It's a couple of questions I saw in the chat, which I think it'd be really good to talk about is, this is the number one question: where do you find freelance work? Is there a site for that? I know there's definitely sites, and Joe, you probably know a little bit more about the sites to go to, but I know Upwork's one, TopTal.
Yep.
What else?
Yeah, that's an awesome question, Vlad. I think we'll get to that in a minute. Like, sort of, there's a bunch of questions related to that, like, how do you find work, what do you charge for it, how you get started, that kind of thing. So definitely we'll talk about that in just a moment. But I do see some other, I just want to get a feel for all of you, and sort of like where your interest plays into freelancing. So this is awesome. Joseph, great to see you on the call again, man. Yeah. I love it. Seeing you on the calls. We work a lot together with Matt and I, with Joseph. Freelance for both experience and, extra money. That's awesome. Devyani saying, thinking of freelance, good hands-on practice than doing personal project. Yeah, I have a saying with my mentees is that experience trumps education.
Absolutely.
To me, experience trumps education. Education is important. Don't get me wrong. Education is very important. But when it comes to hiring, and when people make decisions to hire individuals, experience always trumps education. There's no doubt. Even for recent college grads.
Yep.
It's kind of funny, a little deviation, but not to date myself. When I was in college, cellular phones were just starting to become a thing, right?
Yeah.
And nobody had them. I mean, like, it was like these big hunky things that went into
the block phones.
Those big block things. So my first job in college was working for what was called Bell Atlantic Mobile at the time. It's now Verizon Wireless. We were building out the first cellular networks.
Wow.
But back in those days, I'm talking about the mid 90s, and back in those days, if you had an internship while you were in college, that was rare. Like it was, I want to say like less than 5% of the people back then had an internship. Nowadays, I know it's very different. It's almost like kind of flip-flopped. It's
Yeah.
like you have to have an internship, not only an internship, but you have to have like 2 internships. You have to have like
Yep.
your junior, after your junior, after your sophomore year. Like, and that's almost like the norm. Like, how crazy is that? Like, to compete. So
Yeah.
it just it just reiterates the fact that even if you're in a college environment, the experience is so important.
It really is, so I don't know if too many people know this about my background, but I studied music very heavily for a long period of time. So I studied classical piano, and I was like number 2 trombonist in Washington State or something like that.
Oh wow, that's awesome! I never knew.
Yeah,
that.
not number 1, but number 2. And here's the thing. There's music theory, there's like music pedagogy, there's like, the woodshedding, which is like people talk about going out to the woodshed and practicing for 10 hours. Honestly, the only thing that really mattered was playing with other musicians. And it really shows up in like jazz music, but there's a concept behind this too. There's this guy, Etienne Wagner, who came up with this idea of community of practice, and it's like really we learn by observing and being a part of a group, because like yeah, we can read and we can get a little bit here and there, or we can do a little pet project, but until we have that outside opinion or somebody who's been there, done that, we just have such a more difficult time. And it really is like this, standing on the shoulders of giants. Everybody talks about that. If you can find a position doing freelancing, even with just a small startup or anybody, and get that experience, it just really catapults people's careers versus like, I've definitely seen this before where somebody, has a degree. It could be even a higher degree, like a master's degree, a PhD. They get out of school and then it's kind of like the cliff, it's like they don't, they have a very difficult time transitioning. And it really does come down to, the end of the day, like we're going to be working together at some point, you're going to be working with other people. And the best way to get better at that is to work with other people. So it's like, you just have to do it. And freelancing is so great because it really reduces the barrier. It's so much easier to get a freelancing job than I think people realize. It's like, yeah, you're not going to have like super crazy big consulting projects like Booz Allen Hamilton or like Accenture, but the little projects really, really help. At least they've helped me a lot. So, yeah.
Awesome, man. So I'm just going back to some of these questions here too. Guru Kamal, awesome, wants to know the best place to find work. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute.
We'll talk about that.
Awesome, Nicolette, primarily interested in gaining experience. Very cool. Christoph, let's see, discover opportunities that could build a SaaS startup around, ideally fintech. Have any recommendations? All right, that's interesting. That is a very interesting question, Christoph. I'm glad you brought this up. Yeah, hey, look.
Good question.
There are quite a few people, 2 of which may be on the call today, that have built their careers and do this full time for a living, freelancing. So, that's, that's something that some people might be interested in, is how do you build a business around freelancing, right? And, one of the lessons I learned very early in my career is I went to work for I wouldn't call it a startup because it's not a startup in the sense of the word today. But this was a guy that got laid off from Bell Labs. His father passed away. He got a little bit of an inheritance, and he started a company with just him. Basically it was just him, and maybe one other person was helping him on the side. So I went to work for him, and I was I was just like really me and him, and he. I would kind of label this as freelancing. Is he basically went out there and got a contract with some of the old people he used to work with to do some side jobs for them. And then I want to say within 8 years or so, sold the company for around 20 million bucks.
Damn.
He maybe had less than 10 employees. I had moved on at that point. I wasn't with the company when it was still there, but the idea was, and I learned this very early on from his business model, was he got some freelancing work, which basically paid the bills. And then he invested in some new technologies that were kind of developed as investment projects and wound up selling that technology to another company. I mean, certainly, entrepreneurs on the call, freelancing, a lot of opportunities there.
There's another very famous example of this, what Christoph was talking about, which honestly is kind of my goal in life as well, because I've been working on my own startup, is there's this old, really good case study of Joel Spolsky, who was the guy who founded Stack Overflow and like Fog Creek and Trello and all of these companies. And the start of Fog Creek, which led to Stack Overflow and all of that, was they did consulting. And they went around and they did consulting, because consulting is a very good way of saying, like, you're going to pay me for either my time or you're going to pay me for like project stuff. And it's a great way to pay the bills. And so what they did is they kind of took this barbell strategy of, 90% of their money is making money from freelancing, and then they take 10% off and then invest it in other things. And I am a huge believer in that, of the best way to grow is to be, this is the approach that I take, is that I want to be very stable with like 90% of the things that I have. So like my investment portfolio is super boring. Like, there's all these things that are just super, super boring. But then the 10% I just be really speculative with. And the beauty is that if you get really good at freelancing and you do the consulting for a while, it's like, it can become kind of a nice stable income. And you just take it from there and be like, okay, well, I got that covered. Now I'm going to go try something else. And it could work. It requires work, of course. I mean, it's not easy, but it's a great strategy. So like I'm a big fan of it, and I also see it as like freelancing consulting. The reason I do it, and people ask me this a lot, especially my clients, because clients a lot of the time they're just like, oh, I really want to hire you, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. And the reason why, I mean, it's not necessarily like I don't like to work as a full-time employee. It's more it gives the opportunity for myself to see many different opportunities out there. So I get to work with different clients, and then honestly, it's like, oh, these people over here are doing this in a very special way, and they're doing it in a different way, and it just opens up more opportunities and ideas. So it's a nice place to be. It has its issues as well, but
doesn't everything, right?
I know, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's awesome. It was Steve Jobs has a famous quote, and I don't remember the exact words, but something like, it's not important what products you do. It's all the ones you say no to that's important.
Yeah.
Right? It's like at some point you're going to be too overwhelmed to take on every single opportunity that might come along. So you got to kind of impose some strategy and unfortunately say no to some things that come up. Totally. Cool. So this is great. It's great questions. Everybody keep the chat going. If we missed you, let us know what's most interesting about freelancing for you. And if you have any specific questions, keep them coming. We're just going to keep addressing things as things go along. So I guess the first thing we could talk about, Matt, is like, you know, how do you get started? Like, how do you find clients?
Yeah. And my answer is going to be very, yeah, you know, I think if I were to do things over, um, honestly, I would do things probably pretty similar to what I've done in the past. But honestly, here's what it comes down to for me is that getting over, I feel like the biggest barrier that I've had to overcome as a freelancer is putting myself out there. Um, and that can be in so many different ways, whether it's like, you know, setting up a thing on Upwork or doing Top Toll. But for me, I focus so much on my network. So I was an early adopter of LinkedIn, and I would do this thing where I would ask people for informational interviews when I was a college student. Um, and for me, that's really what works. So talking with people, asking their pain points, what issues that they're having, and then working with them to see like, oh, maybe I can help you or maybe not. The and the story that I have behind that is that I think for me it's just like so my dad was a blue collar worker, and he was laid off in like the early 80s due to like Reagan cuts and, you know, stuff like that. And I remember he told me a story about getting a job, and literally all he did, it was a stupid simple thing. He would literally show up to the job every single day. He was just like that guy who was always there early with his coffee, like they're ready to work. And honestly, that's what works for me. It's just constantly showing up, constantly reaching out to new people, and being open to the opportunities. And what that really shows up in terms of tactics for me, it comes down to um, if I were just starting out, I would talk to everybody that I know who's anybody that I know, and I would be asking them like, hey, like I'm starting out, like I'm doing this, I have this to offer. Do you or anybody that you know need this? And and that's what I would do. It's a very old school cold calling kind of a thing, but it works, and it seems kind of. I know in the past I've felt that it felt slimy, like, oh, like I'm asking for work. How dare I ask for work? And nobody cares. like you know, most people don't care. I mean, just don't be a jerk and don't like, you know, spam people. But if you know somebody who has a job at a startup or you know, works at a fintech company or something, just ask. It's really that simple. And I feel like that's what it comes down to, really. And so if I were to invest in like my time these days for like starting out freelancing, I would literally just invest in something like Mailshake, and I would send out a ton of emails, and I would just be asking. But that's my approach. So I'm curious what your approach is, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I think one point you hit on that I think is so important to emphasize is like your personal network is going to be the first place you should start. And you know, it's kind of like if you've heard the story Acres of Diamonds. If anybody's heard that story, you know, it's an awesome story. You know, if you haven't heard the story, it's about you know, I'm probably not going to do it justice, but it's about this farmer, and you know, all these people were making money by finding diamonds in the land, and this farmer said, I'm missing out on this. So he went out and he searched the entire country, the entire town, for this land that would have the diamonds. And you know, the story that you know, I guess he tired of old age at some point and died. And then the person who took over his farm was digging in the yard one day, and what did they find? Diamonds in his own backyard. He had diamonds the whole time, but he was out. He was determined to go and thought it was elsewhere. He didn't even look in his own backyard. Right. So I don't know. That's kind of like the gist of it. Probably a better way to tell the story. But the point is, search for diamonds in your own backyard, which is your own network. Yeah. And there might be a lot of dead ends, but get the word out. Say, hey, look, I'm a machine learning engineer. I'm a data scientist, and I have some time that I could dedicate to a project. Right. It's not going to be long term. Right. Like, it's not a long-term thing. Otherwise, people are going to want to hire you as an employee, which may be what you want. I mean, it depends on what you're looking for. Right. Now that I do this consulting, freelancing full time is, I hit a lot of dead ends with recruiters and companies sometimes because they're looking to hire full-time employees.
Yep.
But hey, a good approach to it that it seems like it's been working is, hey, I have some time available, maybe for the next few months. Maybe I could help you or your team kind of accomplish some of your goals over that time, and, kind of kick off the conversation in that fashion. But, like you mentioned, man, I think that's definitely the first place you want to look is your own network, and kind of just get the word out there that.
Well, and something that you said is so important to hammer on. I made this mistake really early on of just basically blanketing emails out there, being like, basically, please give me work. What was kind of the email. And what you said is so important, which is really leading with what you can do for them. Because if you say, I'm a machine learning engineer and I have some time and I'm looking to help people do these things, that's so much different than, please give me work. Because in a lot of the emails that I get that are cold emails are like that. They're just kind of like, please hire me for things. And it really comes down to leading with value, and focus and putting yourself in their shoes and just saying, like, what is it that they're after? What can you help them with? Maybe it's not even machine learning. Maybe it's just, they need some basic statistics or something, and I think that was a hard lesson for me of just like, like a lot of my emails didn't really go anywhere. And it's like, eventually I figured it out, but yeah, just lead with value, lead with real value.
Yeah, that's a amazing point. It's so important. So many people make the mistake, right? What you don't want to do is like focus on yourself and say, here's all my credentials, I've been doing this, I've been doing that, blah, blah, blah. But, I really need some work right now. So do you have any work for me to do? Because I really want to learn this new thing that I haven't done before. And I really kind of just started learning it. Like, you want to approach it as, something, you are an expert. You've been studying this, you've been practicing it on your own. You are an expert. And, and you have some available time. So if somebody can benefit from that, let's have a discussion. The goal isn't to get hired in the first encounter with somebody, right?
Yeah.
Really what you want to do is, if you're, we could talk about marketing a little bit, is, of a quick phone call, quick email, just to set up a call or something. Get in 15 minutes, 10 minutes of time is all it requires. And a good approach that works is that maybe, you go on LinkedIn, you look at your network, and you find that, like, somebody from high school is working for, I don't know, some company like Pfizer or something.
Yeah.
And they might not be doing data science, but they can get you in touch with somebody that's doing data science, machine learning there. Look, anybody that's in this field knows this is hitting every single industry, every single market, every single type of company. So no matter where somebody works, they might be able to get you in touch with that person, and then reach out to them in LinkedIn or email and just say, hey, I have some experience in this field. This is what I do. I have some free cycles. Can we get on the phone and talk about it? Maybe I could help you out, reach some short-term goals that you're looking for, and really focus on them and wanting to understand, like, what their goals are, and see if it's something that you can provide some value for.
Yeah, and this is striking on another point. We talked about this kind of at the beginning of this, of like, you get people in General Assembly, or like they get a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or a PhD, or they're really educated. And then they get out of those boot camps or schools, and then they really struggle. I mean, I know, Joe, you and I have seen a lot of this, where people go through a boot camp and then they really struggle afterwards. Here's the point. General Assembly, they're great. These are all great. I mean, General Assembly, going to school, that is all great. But it is fundamentally kind of self-development. It is kind of it can become self-absorbed in a way where you spend years learning stuff on your own. And really the only person you have to answer to is yourself. When going out into the world, that's not how things work. And I think almost overdoing it in terms of being overly receptive and overly focused on other people's value will really, really help bridge that gap. Because I've seen it over and over again, where it's like, I know all these machine learning models, or I know these things, and it's just like, no, that's the wrong question to ask. Like, you ask the question of, what can I do for my client? What can I do for this person? Because whether you know machine learning or not almost doesn't matter. Like, what matters is like the service and the being able to help people get where they want to go. And it's a hard pill to swallow, but a very good one too.
So true. Yeah. So just to kind of point out another thing is Matt and I, we do a lot of personal development coaching and personal development help with data scientists and machine learning. So these are areas where it's like not technical, right? It's like, how do you just deal with the challenges of life? And one of the things that Matt and I talk a lot about is or one of the people we talk about a lot is Joseph Campbell. Mm-hmm. And Joseph Campbell was an awesome teacher. He is famous for discovering or teaching this concept of a monomyth, where if you look back at all the stories and myths of across cultures, across history, times in history, that there all seems to be this common theme in life. Like, it's a common theme of this journey that we all go through. And the reason why I bring this up now is that as you enter, begin considering doing freelancing or expanding your freelancing, it's important, I think, to approach this as a journey and to realize that there's no path. You're going into this forest, metaphorically, at a point where there's no path, there's no beaten road, right? You got to make that own road for you. So there's not going to be this kind of step-by-step guide of what to do to be successful. That's something that you're going to discover on your own. So I hope that, everybody on the call here, no matter where you are or where you go from here, is that you kind of adopt that mindset, is you're on an adventure. And each step along the way, you're going to encounter people that are going to help you out, give you, maybe a little bit of luck, give you a little bit of advice and tips. And, some things are going to work out and some aren't. You're going to have to overcome some obstacles to get through things, and just keep going. I mean, that's the exciting part of all this is as you start doing it, we're talking about, going into your LinkedIn network, starting to reach out to your colleagues, ask them how they're doing, tell them what you're up to, reaching out to maybe some people that they point you to along the way. All this is part of the journey. And you don't have to know everything. You're not going to know everything from the beginning, right? Because I can sense, like, some of you are like, well, what do I even say, like, that I do? Like, do I do analysis? Do I do, predictive modeling? Like, what am I actually going to do for people? Well, I don't know. like you have to talk to these people first, and you get on the call with somebody, you know, like you send them an email, hey, can we just jump on the phone for like 10 minutes so I can, you know, pick your brain or understand like what kind of problems you're trying to solve. And along that conversation, they might say something and you're kind of sitting there like, you know what, I could do this.
Yeah.
I could do this analysis for them,
Yeah.
or I could build a model for them in here in this area. So that's just what I want to say about that, is kind of, you know, non-technical part of it is view this as an adventure. And I think that's the exciting part of all this is, you know, being able to come back and tell the stories on, you know, how you got from where you are today to where you're going to be. That's the exciting part.
Yeah. You know, and I, to echo a lot of that, I feel like getting started is the hardest part. You know, what Joe said, entering the forest, it really is like, I think we live in an age right now where there's so much information, whether it's YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, and, you know, you got influencers who are just like, hey, look at me, I got 8-pack abs and like whatever. And, you know, it's, you're not going to be where they're at. You're not going to be, you know, Ty Lopez with his cars in his garage. Like, you know, I mean, cool. Like, it's awesome. It's awesome that he has his cars. But starting out, like, it just doesn't work that way. And I mean, it's kind of one of these things of like, nobody in their right mind should go into a gym and start to deadlift 600 pounds the first time. It's just a bad idea. And what really matters is getting started, walking in and just doing something, because that is the hardest step, and it's all building blocks. So
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, as you talk to more people, I mean, you know, congratulations and kudos to everybody on the call today, because you took that action. I mean, you know, at some point you got a message from us or you found out about the webinar and you say, you know what, I'm going to take the time to join that and listen to what these guys have to say. You know, do that.
That's a big thing too, really. That's a huge thing. Like, legitimately, like most people don't do this. So like,
it blows our minds, right? Like, why doesn't everybody do this? But I guess it kind of puts us all in like, you know, this class or this group. But anyway, so that's like an awesome thing to do. So that's part of the adventure as you go through this is you're going to find other freelancers, and instead of looking at them as like competitors, is try to get a call with them so you can learn what they know.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. It's like, you know, like Matt knows this. I'm a big, you know, big fan of Brendan Burchard. Mm-hmm. If you don't know Brendan Burchard, he's a, you know, I guess he would call himself a high performance coach.
Yeah.
Performance
habits, the good stuff.
You know, he's big in the marketing space. He's a guy that, you know, like me, started out in the consulting field and just, you know, grew a multi-million-dollar business, helping people. And, you know, the reason why I bring up Brendan Burchard is when I first met Brendan, back in like 2008, like now he's huge. Like I can't get on the phone with him. Back then I could. Like I've met him, I've sat down, I've had conversations with him, talked to him on the phone back then.
Yeah.
And to see, and really what I wanted to learn from him is like how he got to where he was. And it's just amazing. Like if you get the opportunity to meet somebody, especially if they're not famous yet, is like, you know, there's so much you can learn from people that will help guide you on your own path.
Yeah, and that's, you know, it's interesting. You're talking about Joseph Campbell, which I love Joseph Campbell. I recently just finished listening to 14 hours of Joseph Campbell lectures, and it's incredible, like how deep that guy goes. I won't go off too much, but in the 1930s, he literally spent 5 years in the middle of nowhere just reading books, like for 9 hours a day. So like, really depthy. The thing, like we're talking about the forest and, approaching the forest, like, and it's dark and it's like you're all there by yourself. Joseph Campbell also talks a lot about, like, there are sage, like, guidance. There's the people who guide you, that are also very important. And I feel like that community is such an important thing, because um, we're alone in some ways. It's like we're all on our own path, we're all doing our own thing. But that doesn't mean that you can't, like, take advice from other people. Yeah. So yeah, and it's one of these things of, it is really nice I mean, I've had so many mentors in my life, and learning from them is so valuable. And the fact that you could even talk to Brendan Bouchard at one point, I mean, that's awesome.
Now I can. It just cost me like 10 times the amount it would have.
Totally. Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, not feasible for me. But and I think, this is a point I learned from Tony Robbins first when I started, attending his seminars and studying his thing. And if anybody on the call, hasn't studied Tony Robbins, he's one of the greatest teachers, in my opinion, in our lifetime. Yeah. There's so much to learn from him. One of the things that he taught was, it's like success leaves clues, right? So find the people that are doing what you want to do and find out what those clues are. What do they have in common? What do they do? What do they do on a day-to-day basis? What are they doing that nobody else is doing, that you're not doing?
Yeah.
Right? Try to learn from people as much as you can.
Yeah.
So I didn't intentionally do this, but I do want to just take a break real quick, because we're coming up to the end of the hour. Yeah. There's still a couple. Yeah, I know. It flies by every time, man. It sneaks up.
Oh, yeah.
But there are a couple other questions. I want to get to those questions about marketing and, business formation and TopTal. We didn't talk about TopTal and Upwork yet. But before I get to that, I'm just going to really quickly share this with all of you. We have questions. Matt and I get questions a lot from folks when we talk to them. Is like, oh, this is great. How do we talk to you guys more often? How do we come to you? Can we send you email and ask you for advice and get more tips along the way? And, we will help anybody out as much as we possibly can. We believe that this is an awesome field to be in, and there's some really awesome people in this field. And, everybody on the call today has just been great with asking questions and everything. So just really quickly want to tell all of you sort of what we have going on, and, kind of invite you to this. If it's right for you, cool. If not, you're always welcome to join us on these webinar calls. So let me share my screen. Let's see here.
Yeah, so the thing that Joe and I have been working so much on, we've talked so much about, like, having other people to guide you, and community of practice. I threw that out there too. We've been kind of building this community of really data science superheroes, and I think it's turning out to be even better than I ever assumed it would be. I mean, it's growing into quite a fun community of different people, but then also just having the ability to access us, because Joe and I are super busy. And yeah, I mean, I'll let you get back to chatting about this, Joe, but, like, this point right here is just like, usually Joe and I are at this place in our careers of freelancing where our freelancing gigs are, 50 grand minimum. It's not cheap to hire us per se, and we just put that out there to let you know, like, that we generally are that's what our focus is. But yeah, I'll turn it back to you, Joe.
So a little history before I jump into this is Matt and I met probably a little over a year ago now, maybe longer. I can't keep track of time. Is it 2 years?
I know, yeah. The pandemic. Yeah.
Anyway, we met at the Strata Data Science Conference, and you know, Matt was actually teaching a course, and I reached out to him ahead of the conference and said, you know, you're teaching this course. I'm kind of starting my a business. I was planning to quit my job and start my own business, and I said, would you mind if we grab a cup of coffee and just so I could, you know, pick your brain and get some advice on that. So we met up and wound up sitting down having a cup of coffee, and it was like we just started talking about Tony Robbins and like, you know, all this personal development stuff. And you know, and Matt works for ClickFunnels, which is Russell Brunson, awesome personal development, you know, in the personal development community, Brendan Bouchard. And you know, what we found in common with us, like it was like data science. We were like there for data science, but Matt and I, like, we discovered that both of us had invested so much money and like so much time to reading about and studying personal development that we're like, we got to bring this to the data science community.
Well, and I think the point to hammer here is that like we've invested so much because it's brought so much value to us. I mean, we were literally sitting at Strata, which is an incredible conference, and unfortunately they're not going to do it anymore, at least in person. We're just like, oh, this is cool, you know, I'm learning about some new machine learning stuff and some interesting stuff. But then we were talking about like, you know, the biggest value in our life was doing like, I mean, I did a 7-day silent retreat, and Joe's done like stuff with Tony Robbins and Brendan Bouchard, and I've done other stuff with Mankind Project's a big deal in my life. And it's just like, we've invested a lot of it because we get a lot of value, and our freelancing businesses have like just gone way up. The more I invest in self-development and personal development, the more I'm getting better at freelancing. I mean, it's like they're the same thing. And so, yeah, we really hit it off.
Yeah, it was just like synchronicity, you know. It's like two guys coming together to talk about one thing and discovering something totally new. You know, and Matt's done some incredible things with meditation. I've probably done over a dozen fire walks over the years. Like, so we're like, maybe we'll put together an event, do some meditation, some fire walks, things like that, mix in a little data science. But for now, what we decided to do, and it's been working out really, really well. We have a number of individuals part of this program, just a really great group. We have this coaching program, and essentially through the coaching program, you get 24/7 access to Matt and I. So what that means is that you can send us, you know, shoot us a message, you know, as you're going through this freelancing process. You know, maybe you have another question that comes up. Like, should I market on LinkedIn, right? Is that a place? And you just want to get some feedback on that. So you can shoot us a message through Slack, and, you know, the community will chime in as well if they have some advice too. But we always like to, Matt and I always respond pretty quickly within a day or so on there. The next part, so you got the superhero community as part of that. We also do monthly live meetings, so similar to like this this type of webinar where you can join live. Everybody's kind of being bashful today. Nobody joined via video, but we could make this, you know, everybody's welcome to join via video. You want to share your screen, talk about stuff like this it's really a meeting environment. It's not us like, you know, always training and teaching, although we'll do that. It's a very open and collaborative thing. Then from time to time, we'll do some online training or some interviews that we post up there. Matt, maybe you could tell them real quick about our interview with your friend Mike.
Yeah, so so Joe and I did an interview with Mike Parham, who is a guy that I used to work with a long time ago. But he's been able to successfully build a 7-figure business running his own software. He just sells software, and literally it was a side hustle. It was just something that he did like in the afternoon. And this is a 7-figure business. That's just him. And, you know, we got a lot of really good lessons learned of like how to progress career, because he was incredible at progressing his career. He kind of went from programmer to manager to entrepreneur who's making 7 figures a year. And, that's something that we recently popped into our community that it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to get those insights from him.
Yeah. I love that interview with him. We got so many good tips.
Yeah.
It's remarkable what he's done, and I think it's something that's repeatable too. As
it really
find some niche in the open source market,
Mm-hmm.
provide super value, get some clients, and boom, you're making a 7-figure business. I mean, with one guy. I mean, he does it all.
Yeah,
himself.
one guy. Yeah, one guy.
So yeah, that's part of the coaching program. We're always adding stuff to it.
Mm-hmm.
If you decide you want to join us, that you still have access to that interview as well as any of the other trainings and stuff that we put up there. So we kind of price this at like $100 a month. You can cancel anytime. It's there if you want to join or rejoin or whatever. But because we're just getting started, and kind of to reward people for like taking action, we're kind of doing a special deal right now where it's only $49 a month, and you're kind of part of the founders community. So you'll be locked in for life as part of that pricing. So as long as we're doing this, you'll get half off, and then there's also a 30-day free trial. So all of you could join, any of you can join today. And, you don't have to pay anything for the first month. You could try it out, ask us all the questions that are on your mind. And then if you decide you want to stay, then it's just, $50 a month. Also, we can't do this. I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to do this, but for anybody on the call today, I think we have a manageable enough number. Is you also get a free one-on-one session with Matt or myself. And that's, one-on-one Zoom call. We could have a discussion and talk specifically more details about your current situation. That's something, we typically charge about $250 for that, when we offer it, which we don't always offer that. But you get that free when you join. So bottom line is, here's a program that if you're interested in, get some more support and having a couple mentors that have been around the block a couple times, and we could point you to tons of other resources on many, many different topics, not only technical topics like data science and AI and deep learning, but also a lot of personal development stuff. So if you're struggling in work or business or freelancing or whatever it might be, we're here to help with that as well.
All of you are welcome too, so it's like, it's not an exclusive thing. It's just, we're doing this for all of you.
So I should probably make a better link, but this is the link to the page. I'll
just drop it into the chat.
Yeah, I'll drop it into the chat in a minute. But it's launchpads.com, ds-superheroes/coaching. And just, you enter your information, start your trial. There's some, basically what I talked about is on there as well. But yeah, hope to see some of you in there. If it's right for you, I mean, it's really low cost. Hopefully, we could build the community. We'll all help each other and get to know all of you a little bit better through that program. All right, so I'm going to stop my screen and we'll get back and answer a couple questions. All right, so let's see. How about the top towel Upwork? We want to take that one first?
Sure.
All right, so we talked about, I'm just going to put this in the chat. All right, so we talked about like kind of, how to get started and, how do you get clients? And one of the things that Matt and I had mentioned is, kind of look in your own backyard first, look at your own network. Something that's maybe a little bit quicker and easier is to join a site like Upwork. All right, so Upwork is like a marketplace site for freelancing. It's, it's many different types of work, not just data science, although data science has become like its own category now. which is good. You'll have to create a profile, right? And it does help to have some experience on there. But don't get discouraged if you're just starting out because, it is designed, everybody had to start out at some point.
Totally.
Everybody had no projects, no stars at some point. You probably want to charge a lower rate than the other people that are on there. But you don't want to sacrifice the value.
Yep.
So when you create your profile, it should look similar to the top profiles on there as much as it can. And from a point of view that, you can do the work, like you understand this work, you can do it. So don't sacrifice that value. And I think that's probably the best way to get started on Upwork. It's not a bad option. It's something that you could just put up there and then bid on projects as they come. Maybe you won't, maybe 1 out of 20 projects you'll get, but hey, that's another project. And at the same time, you're developing your network.
I think, one other suggestion, if you're just getting started on Upwork or TopToll, well, not TopToll as much, but one thing that I've seen other people really use, and this is what I would do as well, is try and seed your profile a little bit. So what I mean by that is there's nothing preventing you from making a Upwork profile and using a couple of people in your network to start a couple of projects. So you can get people in your network to hire you on Upwork, and don't be unethical about this. Don't just get your friends and family to do this, but you can basically say, if Upwork is important, you can get a couple of gigs of people that to kind of get better reviews, because part of the problem of showing up on the internet is that you don't want bad reviews. So something to think about. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so it's not a bad approach to go on Upwork and find some things there. Again, just going through the process is going to help you kind of get things straight in your head. How should you present yourself? What types of projects do you want to take on? What types of projects do you want to avoid? There's going to be a lot of questions that come up along the way, and it's just some things that you're going to have to think about.
Yeah.
As far as TopTal and another one is Touring, they're more, I don't want to call them placement sites, but those sites have a little bit more stricter screening process.
Yep.
Or they're
interview you.
They're freelancers.
Yeah.
I would make sure that if you do go that route, make sure that you could, within 20 minutes or so, load in some data, train a model, and test the model to meet a certain performance criteria.
Yeah.
Sort of like a Kaggle approach. Any of the academic data sets, Titanic data set, MNIST, those kinds of things. Make sure you can do that within 20 minutes, and make sure that you know the basic terminology for machine learning. Because they're going to interview for it, and you have to pass the interview to be a part of that, which is a good process to go through in and of itself, because it'll help you uncover maybe some gaps that you need to fill in a sort of a safe environment. That's my 2 cents.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. I think TopToll and Turing are great, but yeah, you'll just have to study for it a little bit more. But I think anybody who's probably on this call has probably already studied this stuff already. So I feel like, even if you don't make it through, that's really good feedback that you can use to either try again or just try a different approach, or, worst case scenario is maybe don't do data science, but that would come after a string of you just don't like it, So yeah. One question about the marketing is interesting. So from Nicolette, in terms of marketing, is it worth creating your own company? Does that add any sort of legitimacy? It's interesting because I was really a big believer on this when I first started. So I have an LLC. Um, here's my take on it, and I'm curious what your take is, Joe. Uh, I feel that you have to have something, but it doesn't need to be overly extreme. So, like, I personally feel these days the brand that I really put out there is my name. So, like, my name is really important. I don't have an LLC for it or anything, but my name is really important. So, that's kind of what I market myself under these days. But then I do have an LLC. I think it helps remove like sales objections more than anything else. Like, I don't want to set up places of like, oh, well, this guy's a Schedule C freelancer, so maybe I shouldn't work with him. But I don't think it's as important as some would have you believe. Like, I think just starting out, it's not like, you don't have to run out and hire like a whole team of lawyers and accountants and stuff. So yeah, it depends on where you are. I feel that's kind of my answer to that.
Yeah, that's a good one of the points I want to stress that you just made is don't let it hold you back from getting
Right.
clients. Yeah. Like what some people do, and this is like an unconscious fear thing, is like, and be aware of this, everybody. Be aware of this is like if there's things that you're kind of like using to procrastinate actually reaching out to get clients, then notice that, right? Yep. There's some fear of rejection that's associated with it. Just push through that and just know, hey, look, you might get 20 no's before you get that one yes, but after you get that one yes, it gets easier as you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So don't let it hold you back. The whole business formation thing. There is a benefit to doing it aside, definitely for tax reasons, but there's a benefit from a client point of view because like I like to hire freelancers. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have an LLC or you don't have a business, then I have to 1099 you.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, which is okay. I can 1099 people. That's not a big deal. But if you have a business or an LLC, then you just invoice me and I pay the invoice like I'm
way
buying,
easier.
Something at Best Buy, right? And that's me and like, my own business where I make all the decisions. For a larger company or another company that might have like a department is, the department, it might be easier for a company to pay an invoice than it is to pay a 1099 employee. Right, especially with all the legal stuff that's going on with Uber and all the 1099 stuff.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I think there's advantage to it. I would encourage you to do it, anyway, if you're going to do side gigs or anything, anything where you're making money on the side. And of course, we can't give legal or accounting advice, so consult with those people. But, when I formed, Matt mentioned this earlier. So I've owned a number of businesses before this, number of franchise tanning salons, as well as a franchise sales company. And when I started this was back in like 2002. I remember going to my attorney and telling him, I said, Vince, I could form this LLC online. I just go to this website and fill out, this form. And he's like, well, Joe, you're a pioneer. Like, nobody, I don't know how to do this. Like there's a whole legal process that you have to hire a lawyer to go do and file things with the state and the government. And I was like, okay, let me try to figure this out online. Well, today, you go to like Rocket Lawyer or Legal.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, boom, like, it's done in like 4 years.
Yeah.
Crazy. So it's much, much easier to do today than it was 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, way easier. Yeah.
So yeah, at some point it's important, but again, don't let the process of doing that hold you back from the important thing, which is going out there and getting clients or Absolutely. A client.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Any other questions here? I see one from Devyani that says, have you guys had experience with Angel.co for freelance?
I have not. Yeah. But I mean, why not try it? you know. If it's not going to hold you back, like just there's probably no hurt in trying it out. But I've never tried it myself.
Yeah, me neither. I know that like Angel List
Angel List, yeah.
is I'm looking up angel.co right now because I don't remember what that is.
Yeah, I don't know. Never seen it
Okay,
before.
so it is Angel List.
Oh, it's an Angel List like market. I mean, you know, why not? Try it out. I kind of find that, you know, there's really nothing wrong with trying different things out and seeing what works and what doesn't work, because I feel like everybody's a little bit different. You know, Angel.co might work best for you, it might not work for me. You know, and I think it's all an experimentation. We're all data scientists here, so that's what we do. We just experiment and see. So yeah.
Cool, cool. Yeah, yeah. I'm actually really glad you brought this up, Devyani. So a couple things I want to say about Angel List, just in general. Uh, so a lot of the mentees that I work with, and some of the ones I don't work with at Sharpest Minds, they've had some success getting hired through Angel List, more so on the West Coast than
Oh
anywhere else.
wow. Mm-hmm.
But this kind of opens the idea up to just general startup communities and you know in general is there's a lot of opportunity out there to do freelance work for startups, especially if you're willing to forego payments in lieu of equity or some other agreement like I think that's certainly a space that's worth exploring, whether it's through Angel.co or other means. Definitely the startup space there. I mean, the industry's booming right now with data science and AI. So
Yeah.
glad you brought that up. All right. You see anything else in there, Matt, that we missed?
We got a question from Neil. Hey Neil, yeah, Neil's from one of my clients. So it's good to see you, man. Yeah, so any pain points you've noticed from different companies, industries, similarly, are there trends in which skills are low in supply? My answer to this is not going to come across as data science heavy. I feel like we live in a distracted world right now, and I feel like the biggest pain points that I see is it's a couple of things. So right now we're in the middle of a pandemic. Everybody's working remotely, and I just see people one after the other really struggling with doing focused work. We're so distracted. This is my own judgment. We're just so distracted, and as a knowledge work data scientist, I find that the more focused I become, the better the work that I have, and I feel like that skill is really important to cultivate. I had this experience yesterday. I had a deep cleaning from teeth, and my dentist had to walk out of the room, and he came back and he's just like, "Oh, you're not on your phone," and it's like, yeah, because I don't need to be on my phone, and I feel like it's such an important thing to be able to focus for more than an hour at a time. It's such an important skill. And it is so lacking across like the different clients that I work with, like whether it's ClickFunnels or other clients that I have. It's pretty crazy that we're living in a world where we're distracted. We're constantly checking social media, Slack, email, and my judgment is that how can we do good work if we can't do like a good chunk of work? And so I really feel that investing in focusing better is so valuable. Because and what I mean by that is it leads to, okay, I'm going to read a book. Yeah, I know. Deep Work is a great book by Cal Newport. Yeah, it's the deep work is so important because it leads to all of the other skills. all of the really good skills take reading a book, or it takes like an hour of your time. And so if you want to learn deep learning or like convolutional neural nets or reinforcement learning or any of this stuff, it doesn't come across in a 5-minute YouTube video. So yeah, so I'll step off of my soapbox now. But I really feel that investing in focus is so important, and so it's a competitive advantage in 2020. Most people are distracted and unfocused. So.
Yeah, so true, so true. So I did want to point out one thing from that question. So what skills are in low supply?
Yeah.
So I've noticed just in the a mentee space and folks and helping folks with interview coaching and helping them land jobs at the Googles and Facebooks and that whole process is that typically everybody can kind of like train and test a model. Right? Do some visual analytics, do some basic statistical analysis, train and test the model. Like usually something simple like you would see in an academic course like an MNIST or a Titanic data set. What a lot of people are not familiar with or don't know how to do is like really solve problems with machine learning or data science. Like really focus on the problem and be able to draw from the different pieces of knowledge that they have to put together a complete solution. And a lot of that, that could mean many different things, right? So one example would be maybe, maybe somebody has all this data and they want to be able to take like some actionable, get some analysis that will provide some possible actions to take going forward. Well, how do you do that, right? So one way to do it would be like to build a dashboard where it's always getting data. And then if something happens that's going to cause somebody to take action, maybe, something pops up and gives them a recommendation, right? So it's being able to create like a total product or a total solution for somebody. Another example would be like the cloud, an end-to-end cloud system on either AWS or Azure or GCP. It's being able to build like a service that you're running that would take in some inputs and be able to run some predictions. Even be able to just execute some of the services that are available from like SageMaker or the Google AI stuff, the voice assistant APIs, like things like that. So just in general, I think it's kind of like, in the academic space, they don't talk a lot about that. So if you can figure that part out, I think that'll give you an advantage.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I totally agree with you. I think it's surprising how often, it's like you can do the handwriting thing, or you can do the churn thing off of Kaggle. I mean, and that's great. That's a start. But when you get a job or a freelancing gig, that's not what they're after. And it's a skill. It's a skill that can be worked on. For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. So think about solving people's problems, and as you go through conversations, you get engaged in conversations with people. I'll tell you a quick example is I was at a barbecue last year, and I was talking to a friend of ours, and so he works for a book publishing company, and he's a salesperson. So he goes to universities and meets with professors, and if he's successful, then the professor will adopt his book, his books for their courses. So he was telling me, I was asking about the process and just like, how do you know which professors to go to? Because he's working in like 4 or 5 different states and he travels a lot. So I'm like, how do you know like what your travel skill, like how do you route yourself, around here? And just in asking those questions, I learned so much about the process. I'm like, well, wouldn't it be cool if, you could automate some of this and you didn't have to spend like 2 weeks, planning your route? He's like, oh, dude, that would be awesome. Like,
that'd be awesome
for that. And I was like, okay, let's talk some more, you know?
Totally.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of like things like that. I mean, like if you get into that frame of mind, is just have a conversation with people about what they do on the day to day. And maybe you'll be able to brainstorm some ideas on how data science and machine learning could help them.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, I think we got to everything. You see anything else?
Nicolette had one more question. So aside from getting actual contracts and experience, which I feel like experience, I agree with Joe, experience trumps everything. What are some of the most effective marketing strategies for someone starting from scratch? I will challenge you to say, forget about marketing when you're starting from scratch. And what I mean by that is focus on sales. Marketing is very much a long-term thing. And I think it's important to stack the cards in your favor. So, commercially published book is a good one, or like, degrees are good marketing signals that you can use to build like a website or like, social media aspect. But I find that in the beginning, marketing can become a little bit more of a distraction than an actual effective thing. I've tried a lot. I've done ads, I've done Facebook, I've done, writing a book, and that is a marketing strategy in itself of just like, people could come to me after reading the book, and they have, and that's fine. But that takes a long time, and so I feel like when you're starting out from scratch, focus on sales. And sales really fundamentally comes down to reaching out to people, whether it's through Upwork or TopToll, or just sending emails or calling people that because you never really know. So yeah, and that's me talking to my previous self, because I focused so much on marketing when I first started, and it was a major distraction for me, because I figured, I have to have like, the photos done, and I got to have all of these things. I got to have a beautiful website, and that's all great later on. So that's my 2 cents. Yeah.
It's hard to market when you don't know your customer's specific problems. Like marketing is really about talking specifically to your potential customers and then solving their problems. So when you're first starting out like that, that's a difficult thing to do because you don't know what that is yet. You're still discovering it. Another part of marketing is like brand positioning, right? So you want somebody to be able to like go to a website and be like impressed, like, oh, okay, here's my website, here's all my credentials, here's all the top name companies I work for, here's recommendations from Andrew Ng and all kinds of stuff. You want to see that positioning, but honestly, instead of wasting time like putting a web page together, you can just use LinkedIn for that, and then just point people to your LinkedIn page for that.
Here's one thought that I think works very well in practice, is this idea of Jeff Walker has this idea of a seed launch, which is this idea of you don't have anything yet, so what do? And his whole point is doing something called a shot across the bow, which the idea is you're people want to help you. Usually people want to help you. So what you can do is you can reach out to people and say, hey, I've been working on this new thing, my new freelancing business, and I think I'm going to do this. What's missing, or like, what are the things that I didn't get about this? And usually people will respond with, oh, you know what? It'd be really cool if you did something like this. And then that's the lead into a sales conversation. But that's very soft marketing. It's not complicated. It's just an email. But yeah.
Awesome point. All right. Well, this is great. I mean, we're approaching the hour-and-a-half mark now.
Yeah. Oh man.
Hey, so all of you have been super awesome for this. I mean, you stuck with us, great. Fully engaged, asked some really awesome questions. This has been cool. Yeah, I mean, reach out to us. You know, the link is in the chat if you want to join the coaching program. You know, again, 30-day trial. You know, you can pay for it if you want to stay. You know, definitely reach out to us on LinkedIn and you know, connect with us on LinkedIn. And you know, hope you got some good tips from this,
Yeah.
and you know, have enough confidence to kind of take that first step and start to find your first client in freelancing. Because you know, it could really change your life.
Really,
Super.
yeah. Changed my life, that's for sure. It really did. So.
All right. Any closing remarks, Matt?
No, you know, I just appreciate everybody for showing up. I mean, it's when I do training, I'm always so appreciative of the people who take. I mean, shoot, people took an hour and a half out of their day to spend with us, and that really means a lot to me. So I really appreciate it, and yeah, I hope to see some of you in the coaching program.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Well, thanks again for joining us, and you know, all the best to you. Best of luck, no matter what you do, where life takes you. Uh, Glad to be a part in this journey in some level with all of you. But really, we wish you the best, and we hope to see you soon. Enjoy the rest of your week.